Hello and good evening. Today it is Wednesday, June 24th, 2026. For this video today, I will be sharing my thoughts on the decision that Rogers has made to retire Hockey Night in Canada from CBC. Or how am I going to word this when I actually titled this video? I think it'll be my thoughts on Rogers discontinuing CBC broadcasts of Hockey Night in Canada, something like that, whatever. I want to make this video and share some thoughts on it because I got to be honest, I was really disappointed with the announcement, and I also thought it was pretty distasteful the way that Rogers made the quiet announcement right after Carolina won the Stanley Cup recently, and congratulations to you Hurricane fans out there. I mean, I wasn't expecting Carolina to defeat Vegas. I mean, to me it looked like the Golden Knights were just on a roll, and they were really, really playing great. But Carolina, I thought that maybe they'd play Vegas and maybe have some trouble because with how good they've been throughout the playoffs, I kind of thought that maybe a bigger test for them might have been a little too much to handle and they might have been a bit rusty, but Carolina pulled it off. And I also got to give credit to the Vegas Golden Knights. This is now their third Stanley Cup final appearance, and I don't even think they've been a franchise for 10 years yet, or 10 seasons yet. So you got to give credit to Vegas as well. So, I mean, two very good teams, and I'm very impressed that Carolina actually pulled it off because I honestly thought that the Golden Knights were going to take it this year. So, it was pretty impressive for Carolina to come in and, they swept Ottawa, they swept Philadelphia, they defeated the Montreal Canadiens in 5 games, and they managed to defeat the Vegas Golden Knights, who I honestly believe were their toughest test in the playoffs. So kudos to them. In terms of Hockey Night in Canada being discontinued from CBC, it sounds like what happened was that Rogers and CBC could not come up with a financial deal for the games to continue to be broadcast on every Saturday night on CBC. Now, for anybody who doesn't know, CBC is the Canadian Broadcasting Corporation, and if I remember correctly, I'm pretty sure that the CBC is still 100% taxpayer funded here in Canada. So, since 1952, basically for 74 years, Hockey Night in Canada has been a weekly program during the NHL regular season where every Saturday night on CBC, you would get to see a doubleheader of games. You'd get to see a 4 o'clock Pacific time game between usually Toronto or Montreal or Ottawa, and for a period of time also the Quebec Nordiques, and even the Winnipeg Jets, and the evening games that would be 7 p.m. Pacific, 10 p.m. Eastern time, you would see the Western teams such as Vancouver, Edmonton, and Calgary having either home or away games with 7 p.m. Pacific time start times. So every Saturday night during the NHL regular season since basically 1952, we've had at least one game televised every Saturday night during the NHL regular season. And don't forget to include all the playoff games that were broadcasted on CBC as well. So to see that go, I think is a real shame because Hockey Night in Canada is more than just a weekly segment or a weekly hockey broadcast during the NHL season. It's a piece of Canadian history. And it's not just for nostalgic reasons that I'm disappointed. I'm also disappointed because, to me, the weekly Hockey Night in Canada broadcast on CBC, our taxpayer-funded public channel that you can even get over the air with an antenna, that's just a part of our Canadian culture, Canadiana. part of our not just our hockey history, but our Canadian culture and history. And to see that go, I think it really sucks. Also, from what I remember reading, I'm also pretty confident that Rogers has decided to also stop airing games on Saturday nights on their channel City TV, which here in Canada, it's owned by Rogers, but you can actually get that channel over the air with an antenna as well. And they also had games on Omni, which is also another public over-the-air channel here in Canada, where on that channel, in recent years, they actually started broadcasting hockey games in Punjabi due to our massive Indo-Canadian population here in Canada. There are a lot of people that live in our country now that speak Punjabi as a first language. So to have that extra broadcast, it's given a lot of people from India a chance to, maybe if they don't speak English, to have a chance to get to know our national game a little better. So now I think they've even gotten rid of that as well. Maybe they'll still have Omni or Punjabi broadcasts online or something, but if those are also no longer available, that would really surprise me because, from what I know, the Punjabi broadcasts on Omni TV have been a huge success, and they've had a lot of good rating numbers. So to have that go as well on top of CBC and City TV, I'm really surprised. But now, moving forward, because of this, the only way you will be able to get the Hockey Night in Canada broadcast is if you have Rogers Sportsnet. Or you have Sportsnet Plus, their streaming service. So is it called Sportsnet now or is it called Sportsnet Plus? I'm pretty sure it's now Sportsnet Plus. Correct me if I'm wrong. And for anybody who cheers for certain teams such as the Maple Leafs, the Canadiens, and the Winnipeg Jets, I do believe you will be able to actually get some games on TSN streaming service, TSN Plus, if you don't have cable or satellite. But with CBC being gone, though, I think that from an historic and a nostalgic standpoint, I think it's a big loss. I think it's a real shame that they've decided to stop carrying games on CBC moving forward. But I think for most people, it's not going to affect them too badly because from what I know, most people in Canada either have cable or satellite. And most people probably, out of the population that do have cable and satellite, which I'm sure is the vast majority here in Canada, I'm sure the majority of those people have a sports package that includes Rogers Sportsnet channels and even TSN. Because there are some NHL teams here in Canada that do have their regional broadcasts on TSN. And I think the Maple Leafs actually have games on both TSN and Sportsnet, which does not surprise me. But yeah, now the only way you get any NHL broadcast now is if you pay for it. You have to have cable or satellite or at the minimum Sportsnet's Plus streaming service to digitally stream games. So I think for that, it's disappointing. But considering most people at least have cable or satellite, I don't think most people are going to be affected. Now, there are some of us out there like myself that actually don't have cable, don't have satellite, and don't have a streaming service of any kind. So, for me, the only way I personally get any games was if I used my antenna to watch Hockey Night in Canada or City TV. So the only way I was able to watch hockey for the past couple of seasons has been through over-the-air antenna TV. So now, for me, I will no longer be able to watch NHL games at home. Is it the end of the world for me? No. See, for me personally, I could go and pay for a streaming service or decide to get cable. But the reason that I don't is because between 4 p.m. Pacific time and 10 p.m. Pacific time, when the late games usually are ending, that's when I'm at work. So for me, yeah, I could pay for a streaming service or a cable service, but the thing is, I think I'd just be wasting my money because, yes, I could PVR the games, but the thing is, I prefer to watch them live, to be honest. And the other thing is, in my situation, I just don't think it's worth the extra expense. And I mean, could I go and get the Sportsnet Plus streaming service? Absolutely, I could. But the thing is, I'm just never home to watch the games most of the time when they're on live. So for me, it doesn't really, for me, the way I see it is it just doesn't make sense for me. So yeah, I think it's a bummer, but is it the end of the world? For me personally, no. Because most of the time, even most Saturdays I'm at work. I'm at the office. I'm trying to make a living and pay my bills. So it's not really a massive letdown. But I will be honest, it's going to stink not being able to enjoy the odd hockey game on the rare Saturdays that I actually do have off of work. So that'll sting, but hey, it could be worse. At least I get the NFL on over-the-air TV. Thanks, CTV, another Canadian channel for anybody wondering. But yeah, no, I think it really sucks that CBC will no longer carry games, not just for my sake, not just for me, but for the fact that, Hockey Night in Canada on CBC is an annual national tradition here in Canada. So I think it's a shame. And for me personally, I have so many memories of watching games on Hockey Night in Canada. For example, I will never forget one Saturday night where I was watching a hockey game on CBC between the Vancouver Canucks and the Edmonton Oilers, where our captain at the time, Marcus Naslund, had a 4-goal game against the Oilers. It was amazing. That was back when my mom and dad actually gave a damn about hockey. And I always remember that fondly. That was an amazing moment to watch the Canucks win that game 6-3. Nazi had a 4-goal game. I remember him playing with Brendan Morrison and Todd Bertuzzi. Dan Kluche was our goalie, the West Coast Express, the Sedin twins, Ryan Kessler, Kevin Bieksa, I could go on. Trevor Linden, Roberto Luongo, Sammy Salo, Matthias Oland. I mean, the one season that Matt Sundin was actually a Vancouver Canuck. On top of that, I remember watching so many Hockey Night in Canada games with my grandma in the downstairs of our home, where I'd be down there enjoying brownies and cookies and drinking tea with her, watching, the Calgary Flames, Jerome McGinley, Mika Kiprusoff, Craig Conroy. Oh, what's another? Regier is, I think, one of the names. I can't think of his name. Shoot. But so many good Calgary Flames players like Jerome McGinley, Mika Kiprusoff, Damon Langkow for the Edmonton Oilers, Tommy Salo is their goalie, Ryan Smith, Chris Pronger when he was an Oiler, Doug Waite. I think Doug Waite played for the Oilers when I was young. There were so many good players. Rafi Torres, Sean Horkoff, Anson Carter. I remember when he was a Vancouver Canuck. That guy was an awesome Canuck at the time when he played for us. Looking at the Winnipeg Jets when they came back to the NHL 15 years ago. It was great to see them on Hockey Night in Canada. Mark Scheifele, Connor Hellbuck. They still play for the Jets. Adam Lowry, Nikolai Ehlers, who just won the Cup with Carolina. I miss him in Winnipeg. Montreal, I remember Saku Koivu, Carey Price, Bob Cole as a commentator, rest in peace. Jim Hewson as a commentator for CBC. I also remember with Toronto, Matt Sundin, Curtis Joseph, Darcy Tucker, Ty Domi. With Ottawa, Jason Spezza, Daniel Alfredson, Patrick Lalime, Dominic Hasek for a while. I believe he was an Ottawa Senator, if I remember correctly. And yeah, with Montreal, with Saka Koivu and Carey Price. And unfortunately for me, I never got to watch the Quebec Nordiques because they moved before I was old enough to understand and actually fall in love with the sport of hockey, which sucks. But at least we got to see the Quebec Nordique throwbacks worn by the Avalanche this past season. But even though I loved seeing those uniforms on the ice this season, I wish there was an actual Quebec Nordiques team wearing them again instead of the Colorado Avalanche. But yeah, also, thinking about other memories I have. Like, I remember the 03-04 Calgary Flames playoff run where they almost won the Stanley Cup and sadly lost to the Tampa Bay Lightning. I remember watching the Oilers lose to the Hurricanes when they won their first Stanley Cup in 2006. The Ottawa Senators losing to the Anaheim Ducks in 2007. The Canucks losing to Boston in 2011. Montreal losing to the Tampa Bay Lightning in 2021 in that weird pandemic Stanley Cup final. The Edmonton Oilers losing back-to-back Stanley Cup finals against the Florida Panthers. Watching Canada win gold at the 2002 Salt Lake City Winter Olympics. I mean, things like that. I mean, I have so many memories of games on CBC and Hockey Night in Canada. And playoff games all throughout the Hockey Night or on CBC as well. So, for me, I'm really going to miss it for that reason. For the nostalgic reason and the historical reason, giving all Canadian hockey fans a chance to watch free over-the-air hockey once a week throughout the regular season and for multiple games throughout the playoffs. So I think it's a real shame. And in my opinion, the way that Rogers Sportsnet quietly made the announcement that, hey, Hockey Night in Canada will no longer be on CBC starting next season, the way they quietly did it right after this past season when Carolina just won the Stanley Cup in the past couple of weeks as I'm filming this, I thought it was very, very distasteful. I thought, they couldn't even at least give us one more season with CBC so that we have a season to kind of say goodbye. At least enjoy a 75th season of Hockey Night in Canada on CBC. I just thought that was a real shame. So that's going to stink. I mean, as I said earlier, I could get a sports package or a streaming service like Sportsnet now, but when the games are on between 4 p.m. and 10 p.m. Pacific time, because I live in the Vancouver area of British Columbia, I'm most of the time in that time slot every day. I'm at work. So for me to buy a service just isn't worth it for me. I wish I could even catch the odd Canadian Football League game besides the odd rare Saturday game that I get to watch on over-the-air TV. But most of the time on Fridays and Saturdays, I'm at work because I work in a retail job. So it's just what it is. But yeah, I'm really going to miss the Hockey Night in Canada program on CBC. Now, with Rogers having all the games now behind basically a paywall because you have to either pay for their channels or pay for their streaming service to watch NHL hockey here in Canada now, unless what I heard about City TV and Omni TV not carrying games on TV isn't true or is inaccurate, which I'm pretty sure those channels will no longer carry games either. I have noticed, I'm going to be curious to see how this goes because I've noticed that in the United States, a lot of the NFL and the NBA have actually been having more games on over-the-air channels such as ABC. The NFL always always has games on their main over-the-air channels such as Fox, NBC, and CBS. And I mean, before I go into what I'm going to say here, something else. The way I see this is that taking all the games off of CBC is the equivalent of taking all the NFL games every Sunday during the NFL season and moving them behind a channel such as ESPN or a streaming service like Netflix only, and taking all the games off of Fox, CBS, and ABC and NBC, and saying, hey, the only way you can watch the NFL now is if you pay for ESPN or you pay for CBS Sports Network or whatever other streaming or sports channels there are in the United States. That's basically the equivalent of what Rogers has done here, in my opinion. And I understand why Rogers has done this. Rogers is the company that has the NHL's national television broadcast rights here in Canada. And I believe they just signed a new 11-year deal with the NHL recently, because they took over from the 2013-14 season onwards, where before TSN had the national broadcasting rights, then Sportsnet bought those rights, or Rogers got those rights after the NHL's contract with Bell, the company that owns TSN, expired. So it is, to me, a pretty big deal that they've made this decision, because that's the way I see it as. Obviously, hockey is nowhere near as popular as the NFL in America, but still, you know, taking all the nationally broadcasted games on Fox, CBS, NBC, and ABC for their games and forcing it all behind paywall channels such as CBS Sports Network or streaming service such as DAZN or Netflix or Peacock or whatever, it would be this. It's kind of the same thing on a lesser level, obviously. So I'm really surprised by this move, but obviously money talks. And sadly, CBC and Rogers couldn't come up with a deal to keep games broadcasted on CBC. So yeah, anyway, back to what I was getting at. The thing I'm going to be curious to see is how ratings are when the games are all strictly on Sportsnet moving forward, because I've noticed that with a lot of NFL games that were on ESPN for Monday Night Football, they've actually moved those games to also being broadcast on the over-the-air channel ABC, because ESPN and ABC are both owned by Disney. So also, there's been multiple NBA games that have actually gone from just being on a pay to watch channel such as ESPN, and they've actually been putting more NBA games on ABC. I don't know what other over-the-air channels carried the NBA, because I understand the NBA like I understand physics. Like physics calculations and understanding stuff like gravity or forces or whatever. I'm sorry, you get my point. So if two of the biggest leagues in America are putting more games on national over-the-air channels, makes you wonder if Rogers might reconsider and start putting some more games on over-the-air channels here in Canada themselves. And another point I want to make too is that there are more and more people that are cutting their cable and satellite subscriptions and doing away with them. There's a lot of people that have switched to streaming, but there's also a lot of people that aren't even bothering to stream. And if they are streaming, maybe they're only paying for one streaming service such as Netflix, and that's it. I mean, and it's because of the cost of living, and the cost of living continues to go up. I mean, I live in the province of British Columbia, and The Vancouver area is one of the most expensive places to live, not just in Canada, but probably in the world, if we're really being honest. Um, and from what I know, the cost of living has gone up quite a bit in the United States as well. So if more people are not watching cable or satellite or even getting sports streaming packages like Sportsnet Plus or TSN Plus at all, I wonder if it could eventually hit the bottom line viewer rating wise for Rogers. So that's something I'm going to be curious to see as well. But it's things like this. Yeah, and I agree with Neil from Post to Post on all the gambling ads, sports betting ads throughout the games, the digital advertising on the boards throughout the hockey broadcast now, the ads on the helmets and the jerseys. I don't like any of that stuff. And I agree with Neil from Post to Post about the ads on the boards, the digital ones you see on every NHL game now, and all the sports betting ads. I mean, I've become more indifferent to it now than I was, but still, it's like all we have is sports betting ads most of the time now, or, ads for some new medicine or whatever. And it's just not the same. And for me personally, it's things like this and all the ads on the uniforms now and the digital ads on the boards. I find it's getting harder and harder for me to be an NHL fan. And it sucks for me to say that because as a Canadian, I love hockey. I've loved the NHL my entire life. So, and I see decision making like this, and I just find it's getting harder and harder for me to be an NHL fan. I'm not even kidding when I say that. And it sucks for me to feel this way, but I'm not gonna lie. It's it's decision making like that and I know most people are indifferent to a lot of the stuff I'm raising a stink about here. I get it. But, that's just the way I feel about it. I don't expect everybody to agree with me on those things, and if you don't care about the ads on the boards, you don't care about the ads on the helmets or the jerseys, that's fine. But I'm just saying I don't like it. That's all. Now, I'm hoping that CBC will at least find a way to maybe take the Saturday night TV slot and hopefully at least give us some PWHL games. Or even some Canadian Hockey League games would be nice too. Like, at least give us something for our Saturday nights for those of us like me that are the rare outliers that only have an antenna for television. That would be nice. But I'm not going to hold my breath on it for it to actually happen. If it's going to happen, well, that'd be nice. But honestly, I expect CBC to probably just be just to put on regular programming or a movie on that in that time slot between 4 p.m. and 10 p.m. Pacific, which is 7 p.m. through to, 1 a.m. Eastern time. But anyway, anything else I want to add on this? I've been talking for a half an hour, but it's for me, CBC not carrying Hockey Night in Canada games is a real disappointment. So don't mind me if I talk about it for a while. I mean, I don't expect people to enjoy long videos like this, but hey, I just wanted to share my thoughts on this. And how do you guys feel about it? Feel free to comment down below. Is there anything that I was incorrect on? Feel free to correct me down below. And until my next video, you guys, I'll call it a wrap at this point. Take care, and, bye for now. And thanks for the memories, CBC. Hockey Night in Canada, I will miss you. Believe that.